to be back and hanging out. And we're thinking today we're going to talk about some of the things that we've been talking about what we're going to do for next year.
Yeah, we're excited. This year, the flowers sold so well that it feels like we've got legitimate business here now. We got a new cat that we just showed up. This is Kaya.
Very cute.
He is a cutie.
He is cute. He's a kitten, but he's like 5 months or something. And he is supposed to be Dusty's friend because Dusty
is a psychopath.
Dusty's a psychopath, and so he needs some fellow kitten energy to.
Okay, let him go. He wants to go.
But Kaya came from another house. He was in an apartment
where it was quiet.
Yes.
And he's never seen kids in his life.
Yeah. And he was stuck in like kind of like a really small room, so he was kind of going a little cuckoo. And now he's got a big house to run around with and a friend, and he's doing good. He got here and he was stressed and
which is normal, right? Like,
yeah.
Because when did we get him?
4 days ago, maybe.
It was Thursday.
Yeah.
Wednesday. So not very long.
And
we haven't had him for a week yet.
He's got good energy to match Dusty's psychopath energy.
Yeah, psychopath.
Yeah, they've both been running all over the house.
And they're both full of sleepy boys right now.
Is anyone hearing an echo?
I know sometimes when we do it, sometimes when we pull it up, we can have like multiple.
Well, I'm gonna go watch
multiple windows open, and then it does like a weird echo. But the sound shouldn't be too horrible because we're where they always are. The sound's never amazing on these because it's
just cell phone.
We just do our cell phones for these live videos.
Yeah. So the big thing was that on our can you grow it, can you sell it, can you grow it, can you sell it? This year
you should explain
we proved that we can sell it.
Explain that.
Yeah, so we just kind of it's just when you're thinking about farming as a business, it's like there's two distinct sides, right? There's can you grow it? Can you grow the stuff you want to grow? Can you successfully do that? And then can you sell it, right? And lots of people, when you think of farming, you pretty much exclusively think of being on a farm in a field with crops growing, and you don't necessarily think about all the work that it goes into actually selling all that stuff that you grow. And this year, I think we proved it's not like there's an infinite market for flowers, but there's a massive market for flowers that has lots of different areas that we can expand into, and markets that are profitable enough that no matter how big our roadside stand business got, it would always be
because our Kelowna farmers market is like such a good strong market, it kind of would always make sense to go there and to sell there. And
the regulars that we developed, and then I think that there's a lot of potential. I think there's still more potential for the roadside stand.
There's definitely more that we can do with the roadside stand.
Yeah.
And right, like people still don't know about us.
And it was already, pretty much from when the tulips started, it's pretty much been chugging along at about $200 a day, maybe a little less than that.
It's been less than that
lately.
But the average overall has been less than that.
Yeah, but it's kind of in that ballpark.
Yeah, I'd say the average for this year will probably hit in around $1,200 a week for the roadside stand, because at the beginning and now we're kind of into like $1,000, because it kind of bell curves a little bit, but we were having some weeks that we're doing like a lot.
Yeah And we did like $2,000 for the roadside stand just in Mother's Day weekend.
We did?
Yeah.
It's too long ago, I can't remember.
Yeah, because that we did almost $4,000 that whole week, and of that, just the weekend was crazy. So that has us thinking about, next year, and then just the farm. Like we got a bunch of the irrigation figured out this year, and there's still like some tweaking to do with that. But it's going to be great, and then we're going to put a big peony planting in this fall. Obviously, that won't really be producing anything.
People, they probably don't know about that.
How many?
So we have a couple big projects. So where we are right now, right? Because we haven't the videos that we haven't put out a vlog in a while. Because Ian's working on finishing up a vlog that was from like
August.
like it was from like not this weekend and not the weekend before, but the weekend before that, right?
I think so. I think there's
Or
two
the
more
weekend
filmed. There's 2 more
before.
filmed, and then there's a week where we didn't film one.
Yeah.
It was a while ago. It was like a month ago.
I can't. No, I don't think it's that long. But we're behind on editing our vlogs. So what has been happening is that as we go into like back to school, things get a little bit slower for back to school. But at the same time, it also balances because August can be slow because lots of people are away on vacation. So August into September can be pretty steady. But this last kind of week, it's gotten quite chilly out. I'm all hoodied up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, there could be frost anytime now. When normally we kind of get beginning of October into mid-October is our first frost. So it's colder than normal, and because of that, the flowers are going a little bit slower for growing, and then also I think because of that, people are feeling more like it's fall, and so thinking less about the fresh flowers, fresh local flowers.
Maybe not even realizing as much that they're an option.
Yeah, exactly. So we have things have slowed down a little bit for our sales, but it also is pairing okay because the flowers, with it being so cold, it's really made them slow down too. We have
it's not like we could sell $2,000 at the market and have flowers for the week and stuff. We don't have the volume of that anymore. But
this last weekend that we just finished up, I picked pretty much everything there was to pick for for my zinnias and other main focal flowers. I have like millions of pieces of like greenery and filler and things. But you need the balance, right? So I picked everything that I could, and then I used almost all of it. Whereas normally I have stuff left over. And that market, we sent down $1,300, which is a lot less. We've been kind of doing $1,600 to $2,000 as the amount that I'm sending to the market. And then we also sold some at the stand. I think we did $400 on the weekend, but we sold like every single bouquet that we put out in the stand.
Yeah.
So, and it was like today, I'm putting together more bouquet. Like I did a pick before this video, and I'm gonna put stuff together for tomorrow, like after this video is done. When I went out there and I like had stuff to pick because things have grown, but it's not like, oh, I could go out and I could pick buckets and buckets and buckets. Right? Like the farm is slowing down, the sales are slowing down. But the reason why I wanted to give that update is we're kind of glad. We're like, yay! Partially because we're pretty tired. It's been a lot of work. I mean, it's all it's been like 4 years of a lot of work because it's our 4th year farming. But this year we'd gone into it planning for it to not be as busy as it had been. And then it was so busy that we're just playing catch up on it. So if the work of selling is slowing down, that gives us more time, to kind of get caught up on some of these things, which is good because we have a couple really big projects that we've committed ourselves to for the fall. One of those is that we have 14,000 tulips coming.
Yeah.
Which is, that like isn't super intimidating.
No, because that's
'cause
last
that's
year was
2 or 3 beds.
yeah, 5,000. So that's just like me digging up 3 beds.
Yeah. And I crunched the numbers on how long it took for us to do the 5,000. And I crunched the numbers twice, because I crunched the numbers when we did it, and then I crunched the numbers because we filmed it when we edited stuff about planting it. So I'm pretty sure my numbers are right, and it only took us 8 man hours to plant the 5,000 tulips. So
yeah, it wasn't too bad.
and that's like
but we
that's
are
like
talking
a
about
4
building-
for Ian, 4 for me.
We are talking about building raised beds.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be any more work than putting in the mesh and everything that we did, right? So basically that it's only 3 days to do that.
Yeah.
And then we're also talking about maybe bringing in a soil to put over top of them, which would make it like easier and faster to lift them.
Yeah,
If we
to
brought in,
save-
like compost.
Because harvesting took a lot of time.
Yeah.
And it also took a lot of, like, will I pull these off?
Yeah. The one thing I realized, because we just use like our dirt, and our dirt is like pretty light and fluffy, but because we had to dig down so much, it actually ended up being heavier dirt than what we normally work in like the top couple inches, because we dug out a foot of dirt. Yeah, and it was heavy to pull the tulips out of, and it was dirty. Right? So if we use compost, which isn't as heavy and doesn't stick as much to the plants, then it'll save us a lot of time, and time is money.
Yeah.
But
is
yeah,
definitely money.
so we have these tulips coming, which is 3 days, which isn't bad, but we need to find 3 full days, and it's kind of like if we're busy selling, that could take us more than a week to find.
Yeah, 3 days
24 hours.
sounds easy, but it's like when you got all the other stuff going and it repeats every week, that is a little more challenging. But we'll probably won't even be doing markets.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The other thing that we have coming up is, in addition to the tulip bulbs, we decided that we're going to do a big. Oh, and one of the other things that we have to do for the tulip bulbs, which I was thinking today when I was outside, is we have a greenhouse we have to put up.
Yeah. Which
will take a day.
Yeah.
To do. But yeah, that's also on the list. But yeah, we ordered in a bunch of tulips because we're like, whoa, we had a really strong spring. Our idea for tulips is we're going to plant some tulips inside a greenhouse, which means our tulips will now be starting 2 weeks earlier. And with our tulips starting 2 weeks earlier, it's the first time I've considered being willing to do daffodils or narcissus, because they're not a super strong seller on their own.
Definitely not.
And they bloom so much earlier than anything else, that it would be hard to sell only them. It'd be one thing if we were big, if we'd already been established year 10, then it'd be like, yeah, sure, we can, if we have it, people will come buy it.
Yeah.
But with having greenhouse tulips, and that's like an unheated greenhouse, that's just a hoop house, the daffodils will bloom at similar times, and so because of that, we'll be able to like bump up like what we have for offer.
Yeah.
And
use the
daffodils
as fillers.
Use the daffodils as filler, or use the tulips to draw in the customers, and then when they get there, we sell one of the tulips and one of the daffodils, and then we make twice as much money.
The daffodils, I think that they're a unique shape.
Yeah.
And they don't all have to be that like traditional daffodil.
And they're not.
Yeah.
They're definitely not.
Yeah, there can be some pretty cool ones. So, I think that there's some profitability there because they are so much cheaper.
They come back year after year.
Yeah.
They're more expensive to buy, but they come back year after year.
Which makes them cheap.
And the best part is voles don't like them. So
yeah.
So they're like one of the few things that we can leave in the ground that the voles won't come eat. But our plan for doing it is because you can't take them out. It's like, oh, what are we gonna do? Plant a bed of daffodils, fill up a whole bed that we like, only pick a little bit off of. So we came up with a plan where we're going to plant them along our fence line. And then when they're finished, we can just mow them, and then we don't have to water them at all over the summer. But we need to be able to maintain the fence line. So we have we bought them. It's going to be a big project to get them put in, because distracted by it. Because we have this plans for putting some landscape fabric up against the fence line so that we're being a little bit more neighborly and keeping the weeds out of our neighbor's yard, by protecting the fence line, since he used to spray the fence line because he's an orchard, and then when we moved in, he for us, he stopped spraying the fence line, but it's caused issues for him on the fence line because now there's all these weeds growing over into the fence.
And the fence is hard to get close to because it's kind of like a ridge, and so it's hard to bring the lawnmower. And also, every time I dig a big rock out of the garden, I just toss it to the fence. So, there's this migrating source of rocks that slowly make it closer and closer to the fence. So it's kind of a dangerous place to lawn mow. So it'll be good to just get some landscape fabric down there and a big long string of daffodils. It'll look good, and then we can just mow it once the daffodils are done and keep control of those, the strip where the daffodils are, and that'll be great.
Yeah, we won't even have to weed it really. The daffodils will punch up through
so early. Yeah.
And then the last big farm fall project is we ordered 400 peonies, peony plants.
Which doesn't sound, I don't know if it
for
sounds
us
like a lot
it
to you.
doesn't for us it doesn't sound like a lot because we're used to ordering thousands of things.
But when you actually figure out how much space it's going to take up, it's like, oh, that's actually a lot, because our beds are 50 foot. All the beds are 50 foot, and then usually there's about 2 feet on each side of what I call the grass moat, which is not grass. It's where the grass goes to die. So about 54 feet, and we're talking about landscape fabric with drip lines, a permanent setup for these peonies on 75-foot beds.
Yeah, in total it's gonna be 300 bed feet. So the equivalent for 75-foot beds. And then the other thing is the beds are going to be a wider setup than what we normally grow on too, right? Instead of being 4-foot beds, they're going to be 6-foot beds.
Yeah.
So they're
it's a good little chunk. We're going to tuck them in right at the bottom of the farm in that area that we've been prepping all summer. So we've been slowly doing a bit of work on it so that we don't have to, rush to do it all at once, when the peonies arrive. But it's going to be a big project to, get the ground all planted, get the ground all prepped and then planted, and then, the landscape fabric laid out and the drip lines and stuff. But once it's done, it'll be a really nice setup for them. And then the live, keeping them alive will be easy. It'll just be drip line on its own. We don't even have to really think about it. We don't really have to weed it. It'll be just, when they eventually start producing, then we'll be rolling around in the money.
The one thing about peonies is that they take 3 to 5 years before they really start to produce.
Yeah,
I think people say that you shouldn't let them bloom for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
And then kind of by year 5, they hit their stride.
I think we'll get a little bit antsier than that.
Well, people also say you should let one bloom so you know that they actually are what you bought.
Yeah.
But I'm also we'll see. I do want to prioritize healthy plants. The reason why they say not to let them bloom is that the blooms send a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And peonies last for 100 years, right? So if you can get good, strong plants established, the little bit of money you could have made in those first years, you make back on the back end. on having strong, fully producing plants earlier.
Yeah.
But I mean, people always also say like, oh, year 1 I didn't let them do anything, but in year 2 I let them produce like a single stem each, and by year 3 I just let them do their thing.
Yeah, and so that means that year 2, we get a 400 peonies.
Yeah.
That's
one thing though that is because we looked back, because I refuse to give them more than 300 feet. That's already
that's a lot.
That's already
That's a lot.
Like hitting. It's gonna be 24 feet by 75 feet on our farm. I'd need a calculator to figure out the square footage, but that's like a huge area that we're giving. And the thing about peonies is like they're like, once they're in, right? So it's not like it's a big commitment for me.
Yeah.
And that's the maximum amount I was willing to commit. So we're gonna have like, I think it's just under 400 is what we ordered. So we're gonna have about 75 left over. And then I figure some of them might not look good, right? I'm expecting 10% loss seem like,
Yeah, there's always some
that,
especially with the way that we handle stuff, because we're just like, oh, we got something else to do, just throw it in the corner.
well, but even like, when you're buying wholesale, it's like, oh, this one like doesn't look as good as the rest of them.
You can't pick through 400 boxes to find the best peonies.
Yeah.
Not like when you're consumer shopping and you're just like, oh, I'm only buying 3, so these are the 3 best ones that are for sale.
Yeah, and then I ordered a variety of I think I got a yellow one actually, now that I think of it.
That sounds like you.
I was like only gonna get like cheap, simple, like just like a white, a pink, a red. But yeah, so I tried to get some like a white, pink, red mix over the course of early to late season.
Yeah.
So they kind of like like be a spread of stuff.
I'm excited because
but I don't really I don't remember names other than the Sarah Bernhardt, and then I think we got 100 of those, and then I think I got 100 of like a classic white, like bowl of cream or something like that, something really classic.
Yeah.
And then the rest of them are stuff that I don't remember.
From my perspective, as I do more of the market selling, so interacting with the market customers. The number 1 flower, ranunculus. Nothing drives people's excitement like the ranunculus. Number 2, tulips. At that time of year, there's no competition. They look amazing. They're massive. The colors are so cool. Mother's Day is around tulip season. So, number 2, tulips. Number 3, zinnias. Because, people just really like zinnia bouquets around here. You put some nice zinnias in a bouquet, it sells, right? And so those are kind of like my 3 top flowers. But I think peonies have the potential to be in that like number 2, number 3 slot, because like people come up to me all the time in the spring and are like, do you have peonies? Do you have peonies?
Yeah.
And we have like, what, 5 plants or something? We only have a handful of plants.
We have a couple like in landscaping.
Yeah, and so every now and then there'd be like a peony bouquet. But in general, we didn't have enough to produce on any sort of scale. So when these people would be asking for peony bouquets, I never had anything to sell them. Although, like, there's a market stand that was really close to me that.
Lots of people
they
have
had
peonies for sale at our. Because the one thing about our market is there's us and another farm that are just flower farms. There's a farm who
is like very seasonal.
Who comes in for like the summer season, and they do flowers and corn and pumpkin, like kind of like
Decor.
height of summer type things. But they've, like us, saw that you can make a ton of money on flowers instead of veggies, so they've really pushed the flowers. But then tons and tons of people bring down flowers, right? A bunch of the farmers bring down a few bouquets that they have planted on their farms. A lot of people, cut out their landscaping, cut their flowers out of their landscaping and bring them down to sell. So there's lots of flowers at our market. So and like peonies are one of those things lots of people they planted in the landscaping, so it's easy for people to bring those if they already have them.
Yeah, and they're just so big, and like, you know, they make such an impact. I'm really excited to be able to have them down at the market. You know, I think that they're going to do really well.
Yeah,
when
totally.
we have them.
Peonies are great because it's like you use one and you can like build a bouquet around it, or just like throw a couple peonies together and it's just peonies, and people are also happy.
people will buy that, right?
Yeah.
You put that out in the stand, that'll sell.
Right, if we were like drowning in peonies, we'd be
Yeah.
able, and they dry really good.
Oh yeah.
So even if we
they don't make
really were, and they store really nicely. Like a peony, if you cut it, it's like a tulip. You can put it in the cooler and keep it for like weeks and weeks. So yeah, lots of good potential with the peonies. One thing I saw in the comment there, someone was saying, because we're gonna have the extras, that we could sell them, and that's the plan. The plan is we'll plant some around for landscaping, some of the extras.
Yeah, and then
and then whatever is left over, we'll put it into a pot and put it in the ground, and then in the spring we can dig it up and we'll sell the plants.
Were we talking about putting them along the roadsides, the fence line?
Maybe. I have some perennials that we're talking about putting along the fence.
We got the dirt out there, but then we never planted it with
I know.
anything. You know what, the peonies do take up a lot of space though, and it's okay because they're focal flowers and they're perennials, and eventually they'll just be like a very profitable section of the farm. But it's hard to give up that much space because, you know,
I mean, here, let's do the math.
Even though, you know, we have what, like 35 more beds to open up next year than we had this year, and there's still maybe even 40, something like that. You know, I really want us to, especially in the fall, to really go after this like shoulder season when the other farms don't have, like, they all start slowing down, and you know, like their flower selection starts to look different. I want to be able to go to the farmers market with like these super summer looking bouquets, you know, like these amazing zinnia bouquets or whatever. But we need, because everything grows so slow at this time of year, you basically kind of have to have things, you know, like lots of beds just to be able to sell in
Things
that.
take space.
Yeah, and like in the summer, everything grows so fast, everything replaces so quickly that it's like you can grow everything you need in a smaller space. And maybe to have that same volume in the fall, I don't know what the number would be, but maybe you need 3 times as much space planted to be able to get that same abundance.
Just because of,
Because it's,
I think is that that you need to be preparing for the upcoming seasons. I think that's more the case than just that the summer stuff is slowing down. And to prepare for the upcoming seasons, you need to have things planted when it's not the current season.
yeah.
So if we want to have lots of flowers for the fall, we have to plant for the fall. In
August, essentially, or in September.
Or even earlier, right?
Mhm.
In like July.
So that ties all those
right?
beds
So-
up until the next spring, right?
So basically, like, we could have stuff that we plant for the spring. You know, a perfect example is like the snapdragons, right? We can have the snapdragons. They get planted for the spring. They get planted in March. They bloom in June, right? And then they kind of slow down. They don't really do much in the summer. And then they bloom again in the fall. You're hungry?
Yes, I have one on my bendy thing. My bendy thing.
I don't know what
Sure.
that is, but sure. Go for it.
Yeah.
Sam's birthday this weekend.
Yeah,
And
so he's swimming in
he's
snacks.
eating candy and cake all weekend long.
Yeah.
But we also don't care.
Yeah, so basically,
okay,
if you
so-
want to go
so
after the
here's-
shoulder seasons, you really have to tie up a lot of space.
Yeah. So if our farm, in the end, the plan is the farm is going to have 100 beds. And I don't know what we're currently at. 60. 60 was the number, I think.
Yeah.
We currently have 60 beds. We think in the final, plan, the farm can have 100 beds. But you know, if we need, you know, if we have 100 beds, that's kind of like 30 beds for spring, 30 beds for summer, and 30 beds for fall. And, you know, if we want to plant more than that, then we're kind of like taking away from the other seasons, or we need to figure out ways that we can get multiple plantings in the same bed.
Yeah.
And that's easy to do in veggies. It's not as easy to do in flowers. And then, okay, so I did the math. The amount of space that we're planting for the peonies is 1,800 square feet. And to put that into context, one of our 50 by 4 foot beds is 200 square feet. So the 300 peony plants, because we're not actually planting 400 in this space, we're planting 300 peony plants. 300 peony plants is going to take up the equivalent of 9 garden beds.
Yep.
And so what we are going to be able to produce off of 300 peonies is definitely not potentially as much money as what we can produce in like 9 high production, high value beds, right? Like imagine 9 beds of ranunculus and how much money we could pull out of that, as opposed to what you can pick. You know, peonies kind of, they say like 10 stems off of an established peony plant. So if we have 300 peony plants, that's 3,000 peonies. If you divide that by 9, yeah, so 3,000 because per bed, right?
Oh.
Divided by 9 beds. So it would be like making 333 peonies per bed, you know, and, you know, we'd probably retail peonies at $5, but wholesale, they're not $5. So we can make $1,500 on retail peony beds. But we can definitely hit numbers a lot higher than that with other crops.
Yeah. So, but the thing is that they'll sell.
Yeah, they'll sell.
They'll drive sales.
And the one thing, because lots of things sell. The reason why, like, I'm all like, let's invest into peonies is the fact that there's few things at the time that the peonies are like in their prime.
Yeah, they kind of feel that.
Yeah, they feel that period. So what happens is it's daffodils, and then tulips, and then
ranunculus,
and then anemones and ranunculus, and then after those is kind of like the overwintered cold hardy annuals. But you kind of hit this lull,
like the lilies.
Yeah, well, and then lilies. But in that window, we're following the ranunculus, and when the cold hardy annuals are going, you get this window where you have a lot of like small things, but you don't really have a focal. The ranunculus, they kind of are a focal, but then you get into this period where it's like, oh, do you want a bouquet that's like feverfew and bachelor buttons? Yeah. And, you know, all these like little fluffy things that look great if you have one punchy center. And then that's when the peonies are there, right? So the peonies kind of fill in this period when you really need a focal and there isn't really very many options.
Yeah.
So
we had a week this year after the tulips had finished where we couldn't go to market.
Yeah. Because hadn't started yet.
Yeah, and there was people there, I think, with peonies at that point.
That wouldn't.
No.
That would be like different areas, right? Because we're colder than a lot of people, so people will have, we'll have tulips, and people's tulips will be finished, but they'll have something that hasn't started yet for us.
Before where we moved from before we moved to the farm. Which is only about a 20-minute drive from where we're at right now. But it's like down at the bottom of the valley, and then it's right by Okanagan Lake. So it's like super moderate in the wintertime. So that was probably about as warm as anywhere gets in Kelowna. It could have been a bit warmer if we were like right next to the lake.
I don't know. It was pretty warm.
And then here, we're probably 2 weeks behind.
Yeah, 2 weeks difference.
And it's like we'll have snow, and then we'll have like snow like on the ground everywhere, and then you'll go downtown, and it'll be like there's just like some piles of snow from where the plow dumped a big thick chunk of whatever, and so it's like it'll be leafing out down there, and we'll just be budding here. You can always see that we're always a little bit behind. Um, that's fine.
It is what it is. Right?
It's a beautiful spot. No complaints.
Yeah.
we can't.
We couldn't afford to get a farm.
Oh yeah.
In the spot where
all the farms downtown are owned by families that have their names on all the streets in Kelowna. That's how Kelowna, because Kelowna was settled. I think, obviously there's like native populations here before, but they turned it into orchards. I think like 100 years ago or something like that, and like a little bit over that. Kind of like 130 years
back
ago.
when our house was built.
Yeah, because our house was like a stagecoach stop back in the day, or at least part of our house. The part that wasn't extensions, and so like this was just like an agricultural, fruit growing region, growing apples and stuff back in the day, and now it's all cherries and grapes because that's where the big money is, right? Such a good spot to grow. But I think we're both just really excited about
because we haven't even gotten into the whole point of the video.
The excitement of next year.
No, the planning for next year.
Yeah.
Right.
But it all
this is all fall that we've been talking about.
It's all just like the 5. Like next year is year 5 of our 5-year plan. So
you should talk about explain that.
Well, when we came, we figured that it would take 5 years to build up all the infrastructure. Like get all the farm done, the outbuilding all set up, a roadside stand built, a customer base, the skills, the tools.
Can I just?
Yep.
So the idea of the 5-year plan is that it takes 5 years to build the business to the point that it's profitable. And part of that is like what Ian's saying, like all the things that have to be built. But the other part of that is just, the business, right? Every year you make a little bit more money, a little bit more money, a little bit more money. And, we talk about gross numbers because that's our sales volume. And those are really helpful numbers because it says how much is moving off the farm. But the net numbers is kind of what the 5-year plan is all about. And so, year 1, we netted minus $50,000. And then year 2, we netted minus $25,000.
Yeah.
And last year, we hit 0. Yay. But that means this year we need to net $25,000. And then next year we need to net $50,000 so that we've hit profitability.
Yeah.
And that's what we are working towards. We are working towards a business that could do those types of numbers. We'd be at the point at year 5 that the business is working, the business is flowing, and then 5 to 10 is about making it easier to be a functional profitable business.
Somebody's asking how many acres? 2.5 acres. Somebody asked.
Yeah, so the property is 2.5 acres, but in its final completed form with the 100 beds, it will be an acre in production. My mom's texting me.
What is that?
I don't know what this is. My mom's texting me weird pictures.
Somebody asked about the cloth diapering videos. We took all those down when we were trying to get our comments back. We had our comments disabled for well over a year, and it was something about kids having kids in your video. So we're like, hey, maybe if we take down all of our cloth diapering videos, maybe we'll get our comments back. Didn't help any, but they're all gone.
I mean, we got our comments back, so
yeah, but not because of that.
Not because of that. Someone is asking if when we talk about our numbers, that includes YouTube, and it doesn't.
No.
Because the YouTube's making it so that Ian doesn't have to go away because Ian does forestry work and he used to go away in the winters and work. And the YouTube is making it so he doesn't have to do that. we're able to just have 2 jobs instead of 3 jobs.
Yeah.
But my rule is that the farm business needs to be able to hold its own, because the business decisions that we're making have to be based on it being a viable business. And if the YouTube money was included in the farm money, then we wouldn't have we wouldn't have to make the hard decisions, right? If the YouTube money was included in the farm money, then we can, we could do whatever we wanted. We could be growing veggies,
Yeah.
because we wouldn't have to make any money on the farm. And one of the things that we have talked about is that, if we couldn't make the farm business work, then we could give up on the farm business and just grow food for the food bank and make videos about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's looking like the farm business is
its own business.
It is on track. It is looking like it's going to hit these goal numbers. And the businesses have synergy.
Yeah.
Right. In the fact that I can justify buying things for the farm.
Like a particular type of tulip that's an expensive bulb. It looks really good, but it's
be
like,
this isn't really like a smart, profitable move.
Even if you sell it, like how much could you possibly make on it?
But I can buy it and make a video about it to supplement the initial investment costs, or there's times that maybe we plant more and we buy more than we need to match our sales. And there's 2 reasons to do that. There's like practical reason and then a YouTube reason. The YouTube reason is like it looks good, right? Like when we have our entire field planted and we don't pick those flowers, it makes the flower farm look a lot better for all of you guys. And then the practical reason to do it is that it also teaches me how to grow things like at that higher scale, because there are like efficiencies and there are things to learn from growing lots. So I can use YouTube to supplement my education and things like that.
And I think that sometimes people are like, what are you guys doing? Why don't you get this all done? We get those type of comments all the time. And it's like, fair enough.
Which is frustrating because we're like busting our butts all day every day.
but it's hard to see the labor that goes into the filming of the videos. The planning, like we talk about the videos and we have to like film them, and like it has to be, it's time for both of us to go out there, and like it ties up the 2 of us, and it's like it slows down every single process when you're filming, and then the editing on top of that, right, takes a handful of days. So the farm business, the farm side of it could offset some of that YouTube money if we weren't doing YouTube, because we just we wouldn't need an employee, or we'd be able to do extra markets every week, or whatever it is. There'd be more time to dedicate to the farm, and so it's not like YouTube is like free money. It has an opportunity cost.
YouTube is a full-time job that is paying, currently for our numbers, it's paying the equivalent of like a bad job, I guess, right? Because it's full-time. Right, and like we kind of are bringing in like 60,000, right, and that's before taxes.
Oh, thanks
so much, Black Dog. There, it just got a little bit better. Yeah, you're funding us. You're helping fund
You've
us.
Been like a whole market this year
with all your generosity.
Yeah.
But like obviously we like doing YouTube, right? We've been doing it for 5 years. We've been doing. We like doing it. We want to like keep doing it. We'd rather do it than go get a job at McDonald's.
Yeah.
But it takes time. That's the point, right? And it's the same as like the farm business. The farm, and that's the one thing that's like hard. Like we try to express this to people who are interested in starting farms, because it can be hard to get this point across, which is if you're trying to do it really small, it's not going to work. A lot of these farm businesses, they only kind of start working
Well,
once you scale them.
They
up.
can be like pocket money for the weekend if you're just like, I'm cutting a couple bouquets out of my garden and putting them on the end of my driveway, selling them to my neighbors, and I make $40 or $60 a week, and I take the family out to dinner. It's like our restaurant money. Or
but
to
do that is gonna cost you like 10-20 hours a week.
But people are like, oh, that's what I like doing anyways, right?
Yeah, and so if
once you scale up and you're like, well, I want to try and do this for business, and then I need these tools and I need like this space, and the costs start going up so quickly that you have to scale up your numbers drastically, and there's kind of like this dead zone where it's just impossible to make profit if you're doing some level investments, but you don't really have enough production or like ways to sell it. You're better off basically just having a job and working for someone, monetarily speaking.
Yeah. Like people always, because the goal from the very beginning, the farm doesn't work until we're grossing $100,000 a year. Like that's just the number.
Oh,
we know you.
We just like went in and out there.
I know it does that in around this time. Yeah. Sorry, our children are distracting us. Yeah. So a lot of people are like, "Whoa, $100,000! That's a crazy number. That's a huge amount to do." But the reality is, for a business, because that's just gross, right? And a lot of farms say that their take home, like what they can pay themselves versus their gross numbers, are about a third. And we knew like the practical reality of this going into.
Leah's gonna show off
Leo,
his furry
okay,
pup.
Okay, this is the new kitten that we have, and he's longer haired, and so he has the cutest little paws because he's got like long hair tufts in between his toes.
He kind of looks a little bit like he's a Maine Coon.
He
Yeah,
does.
he's got like the little like tips and stuff.
I can't.
Okay, but Leah, let's. Okay, we're not. We have already spent probably our allotment.
Our cat.
Our cat allotment.
Do more
I know.
time.
Okay, well, we've been instructed to show off this kitten more. Yeah, so we knew going into building the farm business that we needed to build a business that could gross $100,000 a year, because that would mean that we'd be making, $30,000 to $40,000 a year. And that's a bad job. That's like go get a job at McDonald's type job. So I don't know, what was I saying? Oh, it sounds like a really big thing, but it, once you get it rolling, it's pretty sustainable, right? Like we have 25 weeks of sales, $4,000 a week. It's really not. If you're not doing that, then then you're not really a full-time farm.
I don't know if you're spelling Kaya right, because Kaya came with Kaya's name.
Came with Kaya's name, and it's short for Micaiah.
And because it's kind of like
I think she spelled it Kyah.
It's kind of like a girl's name, which is fine.
Yeah. It's totally. And then he's so pretty that he's totally like girly looking.
He responds to his name, and he found comfort in his name. Sam's here. The birthday boy is here.
You're gonna come tell everyone how old
Look how big you are now.
Oh, look at this child.
He's so big. Look.
We look back on our.
Look at this.
When our
you don't even have to throw him back
started.
anymore. He's a boy, and so there's.
No toast, please.
It's just that's his name. That's what he thinks his name is. He likes his name. He's a smart boy too. He seems to be.
Yeah, he seems like super smart. And we have mostly stupid cats, so. good
Just
to-
Bo's
good-
Bo's
good
a
to get us-
wild guy.
yeah.
So he lives on instincts.
Bo's my sweet snuggly boy.
Yeah.
But he's not like
he's not
super
like smart.
None of them are like especially schemy. Right?
Sadie was super smart. Sadie was
In
our
general, like we've been getting all these like boy cats, and they've been not as smart as girl cats. Is what
Sam, don't be right on top of him.
we don't know. So
Don't
the
pick
way what we do, Bo is our vole hunter who lives outside. He's the orange. He's the ginger cat. The plan is that Kaya and Dusty, our new cats from this year,
Don't do that, John. He doesn't like
are going to be
Don't pick him up.
What do you want? Outside.
What,
They're going to be allowed to go outside too, and they
Yes,
seem
I
like
want my
wild
noodle.
and crazy. Like they seem like they want, like they want to be out there joining Bo in the vole hunting. But we don't let them out until they're over a year old, just because there's so many risks. So we want them to like feel very much like home base is in the house. We don't want them, going far. We want them to be cautious. Like when they're kittens, curiosity killed the cat is definitely a kitten trait. So, they're both going to be inside over the winter, and then, in the new year, then they can start coming out with us a little bit more. But we like to bring them when we're working in the outbuilding and it's all closed off. We also like to bring them down there so that they associate the outbuilding with like home and safety and a safe place to go, because it's all opened up anytime, like for the cats, right? So it's like a safe spot for the cats to run if there's any sort of danger on the property. Our farm's pretty small, but we have lots of coyotes in the area. So if they stay on the property, then they're in a space that, if there was coyote activity, they could get into the house or they're like one of the buildings, and keep them fairly safe. Yeah, so the 100K goal.
Booty. Booty.
Sam's trying to show you a cat butt. No, okay, don't do that, please. Can you close the door? No, do not do that. No, Sam, don't. No, do not do that. He's trying to put like baskets and things over the camera. Yeah. The 100K goal is like, it feels very doable for next year. Our goal for this year was to hit 50K, like 2,000 a week. And
Don't.
can you get him out of here? He's being a bum. No, you don't need to be in here. You're fine to go. So the goal was 50K this year. And it's feeling like that's very doable. We need to sit down and crunch our numbers. We have some accounting we like desperately need to do. I have a busy, excuse me, sorry guys. I have a busy week coming up in the next couple of weeks where I have to take all of our records and finally get them into like our official accounting software. And then like crunch down and see what we've done so far. We weren't hitting 2,000 a week in the beginning, the first few beginning weeks. And I don't think we're going to be hitting 2,000 a week in kind of these back end weeks, but we've had a ton of weeks that were in the 3,000 kind of range for numbers. So it seems likely that we might be sitting at like 60K for the farm business this year. And then we also have, so we think that we did the farmer's market this last weekend. I don't think we're going to go next weekend. I don't think we have enough. I think we have enough flowers to keep the roadside stand fully stocked and going, but not enough to bring a large amount down to the market. I have a bunch of sunflowers that I planted for Canadian Thanksgiving, which is not next weekend or the weekend after that. It's the weekend after that. I think it's like the 8th, like because the Thanksgiving is on the Monday. So I think the 8th of October, the Saturday, is our like Thanksgiving weekend. So too many words in my mouth. The sunflowers should bloom for us, perfectly timed to hit that Thanksgiving weekend. And we will be down at the farmer's market, hopefully have a really strong weekend because lots of people like to get the fresh flowers for Thanksgiving. Lots of people are down at the farmer's market buying veggies too, so it's a really good market. And then after that, we'll probably just kind of keep the stand going until Halloween. And then we have a Christmas craft fair at the end of November or the beginning of December. I need to consult my calendar to get the exact dates. But it's a really big craft fair. It's one of the biggest ones that happens in our town. And if I remember correctly, it's Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. Oh, I saw the thing about the sweatshirts. That's good. I'll keep that in mind because I need to go back and like rework all of. I haven't looked at our Teespring account in like months, and so I need to go in and I think there's like work that needs to be done on it. And I have a design that I made in the spring. Like I hired someone to do like a line art floral and like it's really pretty. It's really pretty design. And I was like, I'm gonna use this to make a new piece of merch. Like so that like I have it and then I haven't gotten to it, but I'm gonna put that together so that we have something new for kind of like I'll probably do it next month so that it's available because I know some people like to have the merch type things as Christmas gift ideas. So I'll do a rework and I'll keep the sweatshirts in mind because if that's I know that they're starting to be like a popular product too, and I think they're available. So I just have to update my listings. But yeah, okay. So we have this craft fair. It's a really big thing. I think that my plan is I want to prepare $6,000 worth of dried product for this craft fair. Because I think there's a chance we could, if the dry product is doing good, this is the type of craft fair where you could sell $6,000 in a weekend. So as long as people are interested in the dried flowers, then there's a chance we could have after the season is done, like maybe we have like another good chunk of money to add on to our entire season for the year to kind of finish off with. So like my point is we aimed for 50K this year, half of our 100K goal, which we're gonna be making a push for it next year. I don't necessarily know that we will hit it. It still is a pretty big number to do 4,000 every single week. But yeah, I think we're probably going to be in around 60, and then maybe there's a chance it could even go up to like 65 or something when you include the dried stuff. So that's my point. Okay, but guys, we like had a whole idea that we're gonna like talk about in this video, which was like the title of it, which is like plans for next year. And I wanted to talk about this a bit because the process of like us planning, like how we go about planning things for the following year, I think is like it's a good practical demonstration of how to plan things, like if you're thinking about flower farming yourself, or even if you're thinking about like planning like a garden just for consumption, right? Which is so what we're doing at this point is we're brainstorming, basically. We're thinking creatively about what are the things that we saw that could have been potential areas of growth for our business if we would have been able to devote time to it, to decide if we want to go towards that and devote time towards it in future years, if that sentence makes sense. So some of the ideas that we've been like spitballing, throwing around is, and some of these we've talked about in the live videos. We've talked about offering the wedding, the a la carte like wedding options, right? So we talked about because one thing I need to do, I need to like hire someone and I need to build a Red Roof Family Farm website. Okay, I see people talking about Cardoons in here, and it's a really good question, so I'm going to sidetrack to quickly answer it. Someone's asking if a Cardoon is an artichoke, and it's not. A Cardoon is like a cousin to an artichoke. They're in the same family. You don't eat the flower on a Cardoon. What you eat on the Cardoon is like you make a stalk, right? Like you're supposed to tie up all the leaves, and then you eat the stem on the Cardoon. The reason why I'm growing Cardoon instead of artichoke is that Cardoon actually produces a lot quicker than an artichoke. For me, where I am, artichokes would not be perennial. Cardoons aren't perennial either. They're most likely going to die off in the winter. I might be able to get some to limp through, but it's going to be borderline. So the artichoke is it would be very, very difficult for me to get a bloom in the first year. Most of the time, artichoke, you're going to need to grow it for a year before you get a bloom, and then they kind of bloom for you in the second year. But because the winter would kill it off, there's kind of no point for me trying it. So the Cardoon was something that I knew with effort I could get a bloom on it. It's just a little bit faster, and so that's why I grew it. But they look almost identical, and the reason is like they are, it's like kale, like kale and cabbages, right? Like they're the same family. They're very similar. Or kale and collards, there's the better example. They're almost the same thing. Okay, so like ideas that we're talking about. So ideas we're talking about, we're going to build this website. We're going to offer wedding options. And the reason why we're going to offer wedding options isn't because I want to do weddings, because I don't really want to do weddings. But no matter what, having these wedding options means that when someone inquires about weddings, I can direct them to a web page where we say what we offer for weddings, right? So even if I don't sell a single wedding bouquet, because people are, no, I don't like, I wanted a $20 wedding bouquet, not a $200 wedding bouquet. If I have a page where I'm like, this is what we can do, this is what we offer, these are, the limits on what we do. If you want it, this is how much it's going to be, let us know. Just having that is going to save me time. So even if I sell 0, it'll make up for selling 0 and the fact that I don't have to keep having conversations with people about how I don't do weddings, which is one of our like struggles that we dealt with this year. And if we sell some of these, like that's great, right? That's, a $200 wedding bouquet is, it's going to take me an hour to make. That's why it has to be $200 instead of, it'll take me 10 times as long as making my $20 bouquets. So that's like where the pricing is. But if we sell them, $200 sales, like that's a nice special order to get on the books, for the week. Another thing that we're talking about, so we're talking about having an employee next year, which is then going to open up more time. And when we have more time, it's going to open up more selling. So one of the things that we're talking about now is still doing our Saturday farmers market, but then we're going to do a second farmers market. And we're talking about wanting to do the one on the Sundays. And the traffic at that market isn't great. It's a newer market. It's not super established. So it's in a different area of town. It's in like the downtown. So it needs some work, right? It needs people who are into the routine of coming there every single week. As a farm, you need regulars. The farm stuff is less of like an impulse buy than more of like the craft type things. And there's lots of craft stuff. And I think the craft stuff does really well because there's so many tourists at this downtown market. But for the farmers to get in there, it's just not quite known enough. And I know that I've like talked to people who people who live in Kelowna. And I'm like, oh yeah, we did the Sunday market downtown. And people are like, there's a market downtown? Like I talk to people who live downtown and they don't know there's a market downtown in the summer. So we're thinking if we could do that market, it wouldn't quite work. But like if the flower sales have been built up enough this year that maybe doing a CSA would work this year. And what we would offer is we would offer that the CSA could either be pick up on the farm on a Wednesday, or if they lived in Kelowna, because we live in a community that's like a half an hour outside of Kelowna, so it's a little bit of a drive for Kelowna people. We have lots of customers in our area, so we're not overly worried about not getting every single person in Kelowna to be our customer. But if people in Kelowna did want to be our customer, we could offer this Sunday market as a pickup for the CSA too, and then we could kind of like widen our reach. And then by doing the CSA pickup as well as having, the bouquets available for selling like to the people coming to the market, we could probably build that market to the point that it could do $1,000 for us, and then it would be worth the time for us. We've also talked about like maybe some other markets, right? So we're thinking creatively about how we can make more money, right? Because we're $2,500, like a $1,500 market, and 1,000 at the stand, or even if we got the stand to do 1,500 every week, that's 3,000. That's not enough. We need more money. Another thing that we're thinking about building is more sales to florists, more wholesale orders. We this year we're super we're super busy, right? So we couldn't really advertise those kinds of things because we're busy just making the bouquets for the market and the stand. But we had enough volume because we're producing so much at this point, because we're doing only like mostly flowers. So we have like beds and beds and beds of flowers. We have buckets and buckets and buckets of flowers at any moment. It is something that means that we now have enough that we could offer wholesale, right? We have, because if someone's going to order wholesale, they're not looking for like 5 of something. They want like 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 of the same thing. And in previous years, we hadn't had enough flowers to be able to do that. So we're talking about, okay, we could, make more of a push towards florists. There's lots of people who are wedding florists, so they just do like a single event. But a lot of them, are focused and do really enjoy doing like the local stuff and the things that are in season and working with these different things, and they have clients that are willing to like pay for different and special things because it's for weddings. And we could build a handful of those type customers, and they could, if we had 2 people like that every week coming to the farm getting $100 each, that's another $200. And building the system where we could be like, this is what we have this week, and sending it out. Another thing that we could do is we could potentially make connections with, like actual, kind of brick and mortar type florists. And if we had 5 florists in Kelowna who also wanted to buy $100 from us, then we could at that point be looking into being able to deliver things, because I see some of the comments here about delivery, and the issue with delivery is it's like what is your time worth, right? And the limits of the time. So the market makes a lot of sense for us because it takes a day, but we go to the market and we sell 1,000 or 1,500 or $2,000. So yeah, it takes a whole day to do that, but we have that much. If we were going and delivering, no, go away please. If we were delivering these like $20 bouquets, even if we charged $10 for it, we wouldn't be able to cover the cost of delivery. So, it's, they wouldn't, in a day of delivering bouquets, you can't add it up to being the equivalent of $1,000, right? There's just not enough time in a day, not enough space in a vehicle to drive it around. And if you were to, like we've calculated, if we were to charge $10 delivery, um, it would still cost us money. $10 delivery would not cover our delivery costs when you include like gas and vehicle and employee. So it's the math, it's just not there to do it. I can see how delivering flowers makes sense once you get to a certain scale where you could fill a delivery vehicle and deliver $1,000 in a day with a delivery fee that's like covering the cost of the employee, and some of like the wear and tear on the vehicle, right? And then at that point it's like, okay, it's starting to make sense. And if you can do a volume of filling that truck and filling that employee's day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so you actually can like hire someone for, give them enough work that they could commit to you, then that part of business starts to make sense. But we're, that's kind of, that's year 10 type business stuff. And we don't necessarily want to build towards that. We would rather, there's lots of people who do want to build towards that because they don't want people coming to their business. They don't want people coming to their property. And we very much want people to come to our property. We want people to come to our property so much that we named our farm Red Roof Farm specifically so people could be like, oh, that house with the red roof, that's Red Roof Farm. Like, we named the farm to make it a business where people come to us. So that's really what we want. But yeah, but if we if we could find 5 florists who want $100 each, and then it's like, it's wholesale bunches, so you can fit a lot more into a bucket. We'd easily be able to put $500 into the van, and it wouldn't take an entire day to deliver, that. It would take me probably, 3 hours to deliver it. And so, $500 for a half day of work, that starts to make sense. So things like that are things that we could build towards. But so we're looking at these ideas of ways to make money, and then the next thing, because the point I kind of want to make with this is like how you flesh out those ideas, right? So we're kind of like, we're looking at these things, and then the next thing that I have to like consider is like, well, what are we going to plant, right? Because if I want to sell to florists, then I maybe need to plant things different than what I've planted in past years. So like, I've been very focused on like focusing on what sells at market. And so because of that, I've been very focused on planting like brights, because brights are what sells the best down at the market. Florists don't necessarily want bright stuff. They want like blushes and softs and whites and stuff that I'm not excited about. I don't really want to bring it to, those kind of colors, they don't really sell very well down at the farmer's market. But they're more event work colors. So if I wanted to be able to get to the point that I could be selling $100 a week to florists, then I need to have more of those type of things. So then I need to consider, opening up like new color options, new, like new plant ideas, right? Like I see someone saying like the lisianthus, right? Like those, like the lisianthus were great, and the lisianthus are exactly the type of thing that like florists want to buy. So that's something that we could really invest into. The one thing about like what we do with our market bouquets is the pricing on the market bouquets is pretty low. And one thing that doesn't necessarily get translated into the videos, because it just looks lush and beautiful. The camera doesn't function exactly like the eye. So, oh, sorry guys. It's like the sun's going down. It's like making me tired. A lot of our market bouquets have flowers in them that are flowers we wouldn't be able to sell to florists, we wouldn't be able to use for event work. Like I'll gladly sell things that have been munched on by bugs. You know what? Like I don't mind if there's like petals missing and things like that. That isn't the perfection of like every single thing in a bouquet isn't the same customer as these like $20 market bouquets. It's just about it being fun and lush and beautiful. So the flowers themselves don't have to be perfection. But selling to florists, doing like the wedding bouquets, selling to event florists, wedding florists, I need to be a lot more careful about what I'm giving them. It has to be no damage. They need to be perfect. They can't be blemished. Can't have bug bites, because just the nature of the work that they do. So because of that, the pricing on our market bouquets is quite low. But if I was growing for florists as well as the market bouquets, it would pair quite nicely now that we're getting like our volume up, right? Because like I was saying, I need to have like lots to sell to these florists. But I also need lots to be able to do my market bouquets because we're going through, like every second day with the roadside stand this year, and we're hoping to build even more on the roadside stand. Every second day I go out and I pick, 4 to 6 buckets, and I bring it in and I like arrange it into, like 20 bouquets, right? Like we're going through a lot of volume when, like you guys see in the videos when we're doing the markets, right? Like I have that room just filled, just filled with flowers, and then I process it all into bouquets. So there's a lot of stems that we have to work with. If I was like working with the florists, I would be able to pick the grade A blooms, like the absolute perfection blooms, because those blooms are like there's a lot of culling. There's a lot of stuff being thrown away in order to have flowers like that, right? Because it's just the reality of the product. It's a natural product. They're not all going to be perfect. So I can go in there. I can pick the grade A 25% out, sell that to florists and events and for event work and things like that. Sell that at a premium, and then take my 75% grade B product and throw it together into my market bouquets, and then sell it at like the lower price that those bring in. So I'd still be able to like get there's price premiums that are relevant to what the quality of the flowers are. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah, so because we're growing so much volume, because we're selling so much volume with market bouquets, it does leave space for me to have enough volume of the really good stuff that I'd be able to sell to florists, which I haven't been able to do in the past. That's my point. But yeah, so I don't know. We're still totally in like the thinking stage. I can't be in that stage for very much longer, because I need to start thinking about buying my seeds and buying. I haven't been seeing you turn his truck into a TARDIS. That would be great. Just flash to things. And I see like another question in there was like, what about hotels and restaurants and things like that? So the thing about that is it's in the same category as delivery, where it's like, is it going to be worth it, right? If someone's, the one thing about florists is you don't have to arrange for florists, right? So I do have the ability to do wholesale on our bouquets. And like that's another thing that, you know, I'm interested in looking into is other businesses buying our bouquets at a wholesale price and then selling them like for themselves. You know, I'm interested in being able to provide things like that, as well as the working with the florists. But you know, is the restaurants and the hotels looking for 10 of my $20 bouquets every single week in order to qualify for being a wholesale customer, right? Like are they committing to me that they, you know, are going to be spending, you know, a couple $1,000s with me for the entire season? And like, you know, for the florists it makes sense to, because like what I was saying, I could fit $500 in the back of my van, right? I don't need Ian to be doing, because I'm not allowed to drive Ian's truck as part of the calculation here. I have a minivan which I drive, and Ian has a truck and I'm not allowed to drive it, and I don't want to, like big vehicles. I'm not comfortable driving them, but the minivan can hold a lot. I can, you know, I can do a market in the minivan. I've done markets by myself in the minivan before. Um, but yeah, so I can easily fit $500 worth of wholesale product into the back of the minivan. But I don't know how many bouquets I could fit into the back of the minivan because they take up a lot more space. And the more locations that you have, you know, I'm saying that I imagine it would take 3 hours to drop off 5 $100 orders, right? So you know, that's kind of like figuring that it would take me, you know, like 20 minutes um, in town per delivery, which is fast. Like it could take even longer than that. And then like a half, because it takes me a half an hour into town and a half an hour out of town. Before, like doing just one delivery would take me an hour and 20 minutes, right? Because I have to drive an hour, because it's an hour there, half an hour there, half an hour back, and then the time that it takes to unload and, you know, to drop off the order and to say hello and give the invoice and things like that. Um, so yeah, I can see it making sense to be able to like consolidate a bunch of orders to deliver, but not necessarily to go drive around to hotels, you know, dropping off smaller volumes who want arranged and at a discount, right? The, you know, it's the work, it's about the workflow when I think of these ideas, right? It's like, how much time would it take to do this? How much time would it take to prep this? You know, when I think, you know, we're talking about doing the markets for Saturday and Sunday, and to me that is that has efficiencies in it that are different than doing a Wednesday and a Saturday market, because we could make on Friday, especially with having another person, right? Like if you know, Heather's been coming in and helping me out, and like she's been a lifesaver. But if I had like, you know, like a, you know, a like a full-time farm employee, me and the full-time farm employee could go out on Thursday. We could pick, you know, like twice as much, right? Because it's not just what I can pick in a day. It's someone who's as fast as me. We can pick twice as much, fill the cooler, you know, Thursday, and then we could come back in on Friday, and then we could arrange and prepare twice as much. And then having twice as much, you know, they go back in the cooler. Half of it goes down to the Saturday market, half of it goes down to the Sunday market. You know, there's that efficiency to it. And then if what we did is, you know, because the calculation would be more that, you know, half of it goes down to the Saturday market, a quarter of it supplies the roadside stand for the weekend, a quarter of it goes to the Sunday market, and then on Saturday, when, you know, the employee isn't there, but I still probably have some flowers to work with, or even if I have to go out and pick some more on Saturday, you know, I come in and let's say I have 15 CSA pickups for the Sunday market. You know, I go and I put together the 15 $30 CSAs. You know, and those all get prepared for me by me on Saturday on my own, which would be simple enough. And then they're into the space that we cleared up out of the cooler, and then Ian has them and they're ready to go down to the market. So it's the workflow. But if all of a sudden you said, oh, Serina, why don't you do like 3 markets on Saturday? Then it would be like, well, if I'm going to do 3 markets on Saturday, if I'm capable of on my own doing preparing for 1 market on Saturday, and now we want to do 3 markets on Saturday, that means that there needs to be 3 Serinas on Thursday and Friday in order to produce the flowers to go off to the 3 Saturdays, which also means that we need 2 extra Ians, right? So like if we could have an employee who like worked, if we could have 2 employees who worked on the farm, and harvested with me on Thursday, prepared with me on Friday, and wanted to sell, and had a vehicle in order to go and sell at a Saturday market, then maybe we could make that work. But does your farm employee want to work weekends? Does your farm employee want one of their days of work to be a day selling at the market? A lot of times farm employees are farm employees because they like working on the farm. They're not necessarily people who are adapted and have a skill set to going and doing customer service. The 10-year plan, 3 Serinas and 2 Ians. We just need to figure out how to clone ourselves, and then we'd be set. Except for we'd all procrastinate together too. But yeah, so when I'm coming up with ideas, I'm also trying to be practical about like man hours and what can be done and how much work can be done ahead of time. So like I'm saying, like I could have, if this florist, if I did a bucket run to florists, it would have to be on Wednesday, right? Like that's just the reality of like the numbers. It would have to be like me and the employee go and harvest on Tuesdays in order for me to deliver flowers on Wednesdays, right? Like, and I wouldn't, if they were like, well, I actually want the flowers on Saturday, I'd be like, it's not going to happen, right? Because it's like, do I have space in the cooler to store a $200 wholesale order in addition to all of the bouquets that I'm storing in there for bringing down to the Sunday market, right? It's like, yeah, sure, if someone wants to come pick up, I can find space to store a bucket. But it's like, there are equipment limitations, right? And if it was like, I have enough labor to be able to fill 2 coolers for every weekend, and I sell through 2 coolers, then I'd be like, okay, well, what I need to do is I need to buy a second cooler. Then my plans would be, okay, how are we going to get a second cooler? Are we going to buy a cooler already made? Are we going to hire someone to make a cooler for us? Are we going to set aside time in February in order to make a new cooler? Are we going to make a new cooler, or are we going to actually abandon our original cooler and repurpose our cool bot system into a larger room that we built to be the cooler that now has shelving in it that can hold twice as many flowers? These are the this is the workflow, right? And kind of, I do need to go because it is getting late, but this is what I wanted to kind of show you guys, and kind of what I was hoping to make you guys think for yourself as you go to make plans for yourself. Like the way that I work for making plans is I cast a wide net, looking for like trends, looking for things that I noticed like over and over and over again throughout the past season, right? And so I noticed that people were contacting me about weddings and events. I noticed that like that I really liked selling to the couple florists who came by, but I also noticed that I didn't have very many options for them, and whatever I had that worked for them, they wanted to buy from me, but I had limited things that I could sell to them, right? So it's like, okay, there's a trend, there's a pattern there. So I look for those patterns, I brainstorm big ideas, and then I take those ideas and then I like think about like the practical day to day. And I'm like, will these ideas fit into the workflow that we currently have? And then if the answer is no, then I'm like, is the issue the idea or is the issue the workflow? If the issue is the workflow, what's my solution for fitting this idea? In what way do I adapt my workflow so that this idea will then fit into the workflow so I'm able to do this? And then, after I have a plan, like that's how I come up with my plan, then I start putting in like the tiny details of the plan and, and getting really specific on what that plan needs, right? So and that's, I'm not there yet, right? That's my next step. My next step is, it's like, okay, I want to sell to florists. I need some like pastels, I need some blushes, I need some like whites. So I need to do a seed audit. I need to go through all of my seeds and see what I have lots of and what I need to buy more of. And then I need to go and do research and see like what are the things that will bring those colors in, and are they things that will sell well at my market as well as to florists? Are they things that I can grow well? Are these things that I would plant in the summer, or are these things that I plant in the spring? Because if they're things I plant in the spring, which is like March here, then I need to buy it very, very quickly. Is it things that are currently sold out and I need to keep an eye on it because it's going to come back in stock in January? Or is it things that are currently in stock but I need to buy it soon because it'll sell out in January? Then you start to get all these like solid details, and then you move forward with that planning, and then you do it, or you try to do it. But yeah, so I don't know if that's helpful to anyone. It's helpful to me. I wish like that's like the like how do people do it? Is it like, it's these are some of the things that it took me a few years to figure out how to do that I never see anyone talk about. Yeah, best laid plans of mice and men. That's been my theme of this year, because we've had this big plan. We had this big plan for how things were going to be like simple and easy, and we're going to be able to keep on top of all the work. And then all the sales were so strong, and we've just been running around like crazy people. And I'm like, best laid plans of mice and men. Yeah. And also, there's always next year. That's my other. That's my theme. There's always next year. Even if you mess something up, there's always next year to do better. But yeah, okay. So I have to get going because I have to go put my kids to bed, and it's like dark out already. It's crazy. It's crazy that we're at that time of year. It's like, what's the date today? The 19th. One more day of summer, and then it's officially fall. It feels like fall here now. Well, thanks so much for hanging out, guys. Yes, okay. Jennifer, September live chat. So I'm gonna make a post about that. We'll organize something for the September live chat, because September's disappeared on me. And we need to get that done really soon. And for anyone who doesn't know what that means, so there's like a channel membership. It's like, if you go to the main page on YouTube channels, if people have it set up, there's like a join button. And you get like these fun little emojis. This is like my favorite part of it. You get like little emojis. That's like everyone in the chat, the little emojis beside their name, they're members. And then the one big thing that we do for it is every month we have like a live chat that's only for the members. It's a private video. And to find it, I make a members only post in the community page of YouTube. And then I like share the link and everything. So for members, we'll get that organized. We have like a conversation usually about like a day and time that works best for people. Yeah. And the last time I set my, I don't know what, I think I set my alarm for like AM instead of PM, because the only reason why I ever make it to these live videos is like in my calendar, it's like I have like an alarm to go off for like you know, to wake up. I have an alarm that goes off for when my kids get off the bus, so that I like don't lose track of time and like leave them stranded at the bus stop. And then I also have I have an alarm for for garbage day. This was like life, like putting an alarm for garbage day in was like, you know, transformative to my quality of life because I used to always forget garbage day. And then I have a time every week, 5:45 Mondays. My phone goes off to tell me that I have a live video coming up, and I'm always like working or distracted or doing something. I never know what time it is. But yeah, for the last members live video, I put it in because it's the only way. Like I just I get working and I lose track, and then so it was like it like alarm didn't go off, and then one of the members is someone who lives like local to us, and so she has like my number for you know, just for stuff, and so she like gave me a call, and she's like, oh hey Serina, what's going on? And I was like, oh I don't know, like what's up, or like are you like looking to get something, because she has a flower farm, and you know we also like all of local flower farmers, you know, if I'm out of this, like does anyone have this? So I'm like, oh, like, are you having some troubles or something? And she's like, no, we're just all worried about you because, you know, we've been waiting for half an hour for the live video. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Okay, rush. But yes, so things get chaotic sometimes. But yeah, that will not happen this time, and we'll get that scheduled. And then the other thing that I want, like other news, is so we have a video coming. It didn't get done today. Ian's been working on it, but it's looking like it probably needs another day of work. So we'll probably have that video going out on Wednesday morning, hopefully. I don't know. I haven't checked in on Ian. We have a bunch of stuff that we have to do tomorrow too. So if not Wednesday morning, Thursday morning. I know, which is like, it's crazy late. But then we have a couple other videos filmed that we just need to edit. So we'll do a push to get those videos out, because I know we're like, I was looking at the channel the other day and it was like, whoa, okay, we're falling behind. We're falling behind on the farm. We're falling behind on the videos. We need to get everything caught up. And then into a better pattern. Best laid plans of mice and men. So yeah, so stay tuned for the video. Yeah, and thanks so much, guys. Thanks for hanging out. It always feels amazing that so many of you want to come and talk about all the farming and all that stuff with us. But yeah, so hopefully we'll do another one of these next week. I think that we're clear for next week for our schedule. So I'll see you guys then. Okay, bye now.